And now we are recording.
All right, back on the airwaves.
And then we're going to be streaming in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to...
Wait. Has not gone online yet.
A dramatic pause.
The dramatic pause. And there we are.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the What If podcast, the podcast about movies that don't exist. I'm Steve.
And I'm Meg.
And today we're talking about coming-of-age stories, right, Meg?
Yes. I feel like I am in a coming-of-age story currently.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I'm 22. So
Yeah.
my age should have came long ago. But
Yeah,
here we
it's
are.
still coming.
It's still on the crest, I guess.
Yeah. I'm 18 years old. If you didn't know, I'm about to enter the college, and we're excited about that. And luckily for me, there is a plethora of movies and TV shows and books about people going through high school. And
So you can reflect on it retroactively.
so I can reflect on it retroactively. I can tell what it's supposed to be like, apparently, if I want to read these.
What Big Hollywood says high school is.
Yeah, because they know a lot better than I would.
Yeah. Well, they're studio executives. They get paid the big bucks to
to make
depict
realistic
life
stories.
accurately for teenagers.
Certainly. When we talk about coming of age and kind of teenager kid / stories, in the past there's been Lady Bird that did some good attention a couple years ago. Saoirse Ronan in that one, I've seen, I'd say half of it. I have a very similar experience to Saoirse Ronan's character in said film because she goes to a Catholic school.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I think
I'd never heard of it before.
you've never heard of Lady Bird?
No, I never heard.
A lot of Oscar buzz for it a year or two ago.
I don't know how I'm like sort of loosely associated with the Oscar world, like selectively what I want to hear, but
Yep.
I don't hear about anything outside of my realm of pirates, cowboys, and
Yeah.
sound design.
Often things that do not find themselves seated at the Academy
Yeah,
Awards.
which is why I guess it just doesn't do it for me as much,
Yeah.
unless a sci-fi award or like a superhero movie gets in there.
This is a little off topic, but how do you feel about the Academy proposed having a like a fan favorite award at the Academy Awards, and people were not happy about it.
I don't know why. Like, what's the issue with it? What don't people like about that?
I don't know.
Is it just anything that the Academy Award does, like, results in immense backlash from people?
People just don't like the Academy
Yeah.
because they're big, stuffy, nameless
Yeah, so
billionaires
you
or
think
whatever.
if they didn't like the Academy, they would like fan awards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think people see the Academy and they think, well, these are the people supposedly picking the best movies of the year.
Yeah.
But if we do like the highest grossing film of the year, it's not necessarily a good movie. It's just the one that brought people to
I see what you mean.
film. And when you think about a lot of the Oscar movies, they might not be actually selling the most tickets. Like Avengers Endgame obviously made the most money in the history of movies, but that's not going to win Best Picture at the
Actually,
Oscars.
did it ever beat out Avatar?
It did beat out Avatar with the second release.
Man. They kind of cheated with the second release.
No, but
so.
Avatar had been re-released a couple of
Oh,
times,
okay, I
and
didn't
that
know
added
that.
into their
So
total.
Avatar was the cheater.
Yeah, they were the original cheater, and we just
Interesting.
swooped down to their level.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah.
Although Endgame does deserve it a lot more than Avatar. Avatar
I
was
agree.
just a movie that looked good. And for some reason made loads of money based on that alone.
Yeah. There's a really good video of someone going around asking people to name one character from Avatar, and people just couldn't
No,
couldn't
it's
do it.
impossible.
Yeah.
It was like the least memorable movie ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but people just love spending money on
It's
going
one
to
of the
see
many
Avatar.
movies with the premise, maybe we're the bad guys. Wait, what if America is the bad guy? And these peaceful forest people are the good guys.
Oh.
Isn't that
Very
crazy?
original.
Yeah.
It's there's a huge conversation we can have about Avatar about how CGI kind of evolved over the years and what it kind of did for movie making. But when we're talking about coming of age high school movies, it's not often where you see huge special effects.
Yeah, I guess not. I can't really think of any. Is there any like supernatural coming of age?
I guess
movies
there's
you can think of?
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things is probably the best coming of age story that I can think about.
Yeah.
Just because it's so heavily Stephen King rooted, you know?
Yeah, and speaking of Stephen King, I would suppose it would be a coming of age story as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, and especially in the second part, you actually see them
Come of
older.
age.
Yeah, so they are of age after that.
I think, you know, coming of age, the genre of movie kind of opens up to, you know, it's not like other big blockbusters where you think, like, I'm going to heavily rely on CGI, like James Cameron type movie, blue and orange, big, flashy. It's like they can't be Transformers. They have to rely on more of a story to get people to watch. And often that's interlaced with humor, and like the acting has to be on point.
The acting does have to be pretty good for a coming of age story, which is especially difficult with child actors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but would you rather a real young child actor or like a 23-year-old playing a 15-year-old?
And that's the issue with high school movies in general, is that everybody's 30 in every high school movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, when you're 13 and you go see, like, you turn on TV and you watch Teen Wolf, which all these, like, jacked 30-year-olds are playing
I do
sophomores.
actually, a side point, I do want to see the Teen Wolf movie with Michael J. Fox.
Oh, yeah? Just because
Yeah, just because I like Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
A lot.
But when we're talking about the non-Michael J. Fox inclusive teen version TV show, it does set an unrealistic standard of what high school is supposed to be and what you're supposed to look like and what you're supposed to do. So when you have something like Lady Bird, even though Saoirse Ronan is a little older, or Stranger Things minus the supernatural elements, you kind of get more of a glimpse into what teenage years are supposed to be. But that's like once in a blue moon now. I feel like
I feel like it is becoming more common than it used to be, at least. Like early 2000s didn't seem to have too much. It seems like it really was only Stephen King holding it down for coming of age stories.
Yeah.
Would you consider Carrie a coming of age story?
She came to something, definitely.
Yeah. Like, is a coming of age story any story where, like, a young teenager or a tween, if you will, is faced with like a great challenge?
That they have to, like, they grow up through the process.
Yeah, I guess they would have to grow up through it. But it seems like with any great challenge, they would have to grow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what makes the genre what it is.
I think the official name for the genre is it Bildungsroman? There's like a weird German word for coming of age stories.
Oh, I didn't even know this.
I'll try to find it. Maybe we can all learn something on this podcast today.
I mean, besides the terminology, there's just, I feel, in the past, a disconnect between the people who are writing these stories and who these stories are supposed to be about. Because, I mean, the farther you get away from your teenage years, obviously, the less in touch you're going to be with actual teenagers in that moment.
Here it is right here.
Is Bildungsroman.
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 That's the genre we're talking about today.
Sounds like a text, like a font.
Bildungsroman?
Yeah.
Times New Bildungsroman.
Yes. So when we're talking about Bildungsroman, it's just a problem because you want an experienced writer to be putting out good content, but does this open up the door for a younger writer to have more applicable stories?
Yeah, do you think it should be like studio executive should almost be like, I don't know, like how do you research high schools? Like, do you get like a panel of high schoolers to come in and then like say like, does that make sense?
I think it's probably more, I'm not going to say it's all the actor's responsibility, but when you think about, just off the top of my head, what I'm thinking of is when Tom Holland was researching his role as Spider-Man, he was maybe 19 at the time, but or 20, but obviously he's British, so he went to an American Science high school in New York and like pretended to be a high schooler for a day just to get the vibe.
Oh, that's cool.
And I thought that was pretty
That's
pretty
almost
cool
like
of him.
interesting. That's almost like method acting. You know what I mean? Oh, I guess role research isn't necessarily method acting.
Yeah.
So, but Spider-Man is one of the better coming of age stories as of recent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Especially because everybody in that movie actually looked like they were in high school.
Definitely. Yeah.
Zendaya, Tom Holland. Who was his friend?
God,
What was his
what's his
friend's name? I totally forget.
Well, it's Ned Weeks in the movie, but
Yeah, well,
his
the
name was
actor who
like
played
Jacob.
Ned.
Jacob
Yeah,
something.
they look like believable high schoolers.
Yes,
nice.
they do. And
Unlike Tobey Maguire.
and Andrew Garfield.
I guess Andrew Garfield too looked a lot older than high school. Was he in high school in The Amazing Spider-Man? I've never seen it. Has anybody seen
Well,
it?
he was. I have multiple
yeah?
times. He was in high school in the movie, but by the second movie that they made, he looked like a full-fledged adult who was just graduating high school.
Did they talk about how many years Tom Holland has left in high school? I assume he's going into his senior year.
Junior. Well,
I thought MJ was a
did
year
they say-
older than him, correct?
Oh, I don't even know.
I thought they had mentioned that
It's
at
the
some point.
war. I know they had to repeat the year that they were already in.
Oh, maybe that's how they explained it in universe, why it was still happening.
Yeah. The school, even though they were just taking finals, the school made them restart the entire year when they blipped back.
Because they got all the new people.
That was in the newscast in the
Yeah.
beginning. Yeah.
That was so. I think because of that, I think coming of age stories are getting better over time. If we take Spider-Man, if we focus on Spider-Man alone,
The Spider-Man trend is up right now.
just because it's a lot more believable when it's an actual high schooler.
Yeah. I was definitely really excited when they casted Tom Holland for Civil War, and he was 18 to 19 when they
Yeah,
casted
like
him.
actually young.
Yeah, I was very, very excited.
And another British actor playing an American, which is interesting. There's so many of them.
I don't know. Maybe the British just look younger in general because
Maybe that's it. I don't know.
because Millie Bobby Brown is British. She plays 11.
She's British. I didn't know that.
Oh yes.
Wow.
Yeah, she does an American accent, and that's what makes it insane when she's like screaming at people, and she has a really good
well,
American
apparently
accent.
it is easier to go from the British accent to the American accent than American to British. So
Yeah, I could see that.
So I've heard, at least. I'm not really an insider on this.
It's probably all like British people saying like, "Oh, our accent is harder" or something like that.
So thinking in terms of other coming of age stories that were real successful in the past, maybe Ferris Bueller. I consider that a coming of age
Ferris
story.
Bueller, if you look at Ferris Bueller as an examination of Cameron's character, it's
Yeah.
definitely coming of age.
I definitely think Cam is the main character in Ferris Bueller.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Because he's the most dynamic.
Yeah.
Ferris doesn't change at all, but Cam starts off scared and then ends unscared.
Yeah.
So he came of age.
Yeah, he did. Well, spoiler alert for Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it.
If you haven't seen it since when it came out. I think, yeah, the real arc is with Cameron. And it's not, like, bad movie making because they didn't really do anything with Ferris. They acknowledge it during the movie. They say, like, oh, he's going to end up, like, as a fry cook. Like, he's always going to be this way.
He's going to marry the first lady that says hi to him or something.
Yeah. It's like, he was a foil for Cameron to get where Cameron needed to go. But he's not a kind of person who needed to go anywhere in his sense.
Yeah, and Cameron might actually be the protagonist. Like, if you're rooting for Cameron.
Yeah.
There's a case to be made that you shouldn't be rooting for Ferris, you know what I mean? Because he's just out of control. I heard that, like, the older you get and the more you watch Ferris Bueller, like, the less you want Ferris Bueller to succeed.
I watched Ferris Bueller for the first time when I was, like, 14, and I was, like, in love with Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, it seems like he's cool when you're, like, his age or younger, but as you get older, it's less.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, like, I feel for Sloane. Like,
Yeah.
I feel for Cameron. His parents are interesting because when you have a teenage protagonist, it's always like either the parents are the villains or the parents are like ditzy a lot of times.
Yeah, I see what you mean. They're just not... They care about Ferris a lot, though, so...
Yeah, they care about him very much, but it isn't like... They can't, like, notice Ferris sneaking out all these times, and it kind of just makes them, like... They're not really opponents
there.
to him.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like, he's racing them home at the end, but it's never like, oh, they're going to beat Ferris and he's going to get in trouble. It's like, even if they do beat him,
it's probably be okay.
It's probably going to be okay for Ferris.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That's an interesting take. His sister also probably was more of a dynamic character than Ferris actually was. So.
Yeah. And that's another thing in writing and in movies, is writing the sibling dynamic.
Yeah. They have a real Candace-Phineas relationship. Phineas, the eponymous character from Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah, the titular character.
Yeah.
It's the dialogue between siblings, especially I kind of feel like in our current era / generation is very different than kind of what it used to be in movies.
I feel like it was almost entirely antagonistic in the past.
Yeah, it's like siblings don't like each other. And, I mean, actually, the truth is that Steven and I don't like each other. We do this for the views.
It's pure business.
Yeah, this is all a business transaction. We actually don't see each other any other time in the week except for this.
Except to rack up those subscribers.
But there's always like stunted dialogues between siblings.
Yeah,
the fact
I
that,
see what you mean.
Like, hey, bro, like, I don't think I've ever said that to you in my life, and if I did...
No, not unironically, that's for sure.
Yeah, if you did, it just wouldn't meld.
I don't know, I'm trying to think of, like... all the siblings in Stranger Things seem to get along okay. That's the only really recent...
Well, Erica and Lucas have a little bit of a teasing relationship.
Yeah, they have some beef, that's for sure.
But I don't
Nancy
feel like
and Mike seem to have a realistic relationship.
They were kind of a little
it was
snappy to each other in the first season, but now they're a lot better.
It did make sense that Nancy was annoyed with Mike though, just all the time, because he was just in the way.
Yeah, he was like, your classic like annoying little brother. Like I know people who like get in fights with their little brothers all the time.
Yeah, I think that was a realistic relationship. I thought.
Yeah,
especially when it was just him and his nerd friends hanging out, taking up space in the house all the time. They have very different goals, you know what I mean? Like they're not similar at all at that point.
Yeah, I mean, when they gave them common ground to be, like, to bond over, and not happen to be monsters, they really saw a different side of each other that they hadn't before. And I think that was almost a commentary on the sibling relationship, like, as a trope, in that Nancy and Mike start out as, like, totally, like, I hate my little brother because he's so annoying, this annoying little friend.
Probably just because of the lack of common ground. I think you nailed it on the head with that.
Yeah, and they kind of bond closer together.
And then we have Will and Jonathan Byers, also in Stranger Things.
Yes.
They seem to always get along well, but Will wasn't really around too much in the first season, so...
Yeah.
Maybe Jonathan's just glad to have him back after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very protective. I feel like if your younger brother was sucked into, like, the upside down monster dimension, like, you would be a little nicer to him for at least a couple months.
Yeah, I don't think they ever fight in the show. Like, I don't think there's ever any friction between them.
There might have been, like, one kind of harsh exchange, but I don't think they ever really go at it too much. Mm-hmm. And there's also that kind of like found family dynamic in that 11 is kind of their, well, spoiler alerts for Stranger Things season 3. Mm-hmm. But 11's kind of their sister now, to be honest.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because Joyce is great.
Because she has her, Joyce is great. She's a great mom. Probably out of all the moms in Stranger
on the
Things.
show, absolutely, she's the best.
Joyce up top, and then Steve Harrington is a close second.
Yeah, those are in the power rankings.
The best
of moms. I guess Dustin's mom. I don't know if we ever really saw too much. I don't think, like, does Lucas's mom have any lines?
They were at the funeral, maybe like in the beginning of season 2. But
okay, not too much.
Not too much.
Mrs. Wheeler's probably lower on the charts, except she did have a nice moment with Nancy in season 3. After she got fired from her job.
I think Mrs. Wheeler has a lot of like inner turmoil with like where her life has ended up.
Yeah, I actually really like Mrs. Wheeler as a character for that reason.
Yeah, and she kind of in the beginning of the season was very preoccupied with like loathing and like hating her kind of situation, and then she realizes like after she turns Billy down and everything, it's like,
Yeah,
oh man, I
actually
have
think
kids.
she was like a real good character.
Yeah. And isn't it crazy that like we never see Mike's younger sister?
Oh,
like
yeah.
the baby.
Yeah, that is funny. She's only like a set piece, essentially.
Yeah.
But all babies are just like set pieces, you know what I mean? They're just in the
she's like a
background to
toddler.
establish the family sometimes.
But they
Like in
never
Dairy
say
Girls.
like, yeah, Dairy Girls, the baby.
There's a baby in Dairy Girls that only shows up in like 3 episodes out of 2 seasons. Well, there's only like 6 episodes, but like
And they just
probably even
hold
less
her.
than that. They just hold it. They don't even acknowledge it, which is funny.
It's like like there's a prop person with like a baby, and then they just bring it in when they remember.
Yeah, it seems like it's a real baby too, which is funny.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the show Dairy Girls that we're referring to, it is a BBC program, correct?
Yeah, both seasons are now on Netflix.
Both,
It's awesome, so funny.
Recommend going to see them. Very funny. It's about Ireland in the 90s. So there's turmoil between the characters in high school and their teachers and their parents and stuff like that. And also the turmoil, the external problem of the, internal fighting in Ireland and Britain.
Yeah, like actual terrorism going on around them.
Yes, but it is a very...
Incredible show.
Very incredible.
So funny.
Yeah.
Hits all the emotional buttons just how I want them to.
Yeah, it really gets you.
So.
And if you can't understand their accents, you just have to use subtitles.
That's one of the best coming of age stories in a while on TV.
On TV, definitely.
So, and it's both what Netflix has provided to us in America. They had it in England.
Yeah, well, in America, Netflix has the first place in coming of age stories.
Yeah, it seems like it. I can't think of any other network that's really killing it with coming of age stories.
Yeah, I mean...
Can't think of any on HBO. Maybe if you consider some characters on Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. I was just about to mention Game of Thrones in that coming of age in more of a literal sense, in that you see a actor start out as a child and then
become an adult because it's on for like 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how old Maisie Williams is at the end, though. Maisie Williams plays Arya Stark. She starts off like pretty young.
Yeah, it was like a kid.
I think like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old is who she's playing. I don't know. I think she was like a full-fledged adult the whole time, though. She just looks very young.
I thought she was a kid. But it was weird because she played a kid in the beginning season, and in the last season she had like a more like adult scene, and like all the viewers were like, that's kind of weird, you know?
Well, apparently like that's like her whole arc. She starts out as like a little kid and then becomes like an assassin.
Yeah.
From what I loosely understand of the show.
Yeah.
Neither of us have seen it.
No.
So. And we get a lot of hate for that.
But you know what we have seen in a coming of age story that has lasted a lot of years?
Hit me.
It's called Arrested Development.
Oh, yeah. If you consider it a coming of age story for George Michael. Then
George Michael and maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, in sitcoms, often, the coming of age, there's a lot of like jokes played at it, and those kind of like comedic situations you can be when you're young and awkward and stuff like that. And it's kind of cool to see a character grow up throughout a TV series.
Yeah, it is interesting. I can't really think of any sitcoms that have sort of the emotional impact to be considered a coming of age story, or at least like a successful one. You know what I mean?
Maybe Modern Family? I don't know if that has
Maybe Modern
emotional
Family.
impact, but
I think it had some emotional episodes from what I remember, but maybe like Full House, if you consider
Full
that.
House, maybe. Because you see like DJ go through a lot of like adult stuff.
Yeah, the dog.
The dog.
What was the dog's name? Was
Comet.
it King or Comet?
Yeah.
I knew it was one of our dogs that we had.
We've had dogs named both King and Comet, so.
Yeah. I knew it was one of the two.
I mean, I feel like you need to find comedy in growing up, because I feel like a lot of times, like, remember that movie Boyhood?
No. I don't think I do.
Was it called Boyhood? It was like that one movie that followed a kid, like, growing up, like an actor growing up.
Oh, I don't really know.
It was in like...
Sounds crazy, though.
Yeah, it followed him throughout like a couple of years of growing up.
Oh, yeah. I think I did hear about that.
And it was a drama. I mean, I understand that, a lot of people's lives can be very dramatic, even in their younger years. But I feel like for kind of like the average American tween, you're going to have some dramatic moments, and you're going to have a lot of happy moments and like exciting moments and stuff that kind of like is comedic. And it's all about that balance. Because if you create an entire drama like, I don't know, 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, it's like, it gets to a point where it's unrealistic.
I see what you mean. Hey, do you want to break down what we think the elements are of a successful coming-of-age story?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so I think believable age range actors we've already established. Mm-hmm. Actors have to look what they are.
Yes.
Which is especially true in high school movies. It really takes me out of it when they're like 30.
Yes, certainly.
The first High School Musical, I think, was on like the very edge of what was acceptable.
High School Musical?
Slightly over. I think.
A little bit over.
A little bit over. But if they were a little bit younger, it would have worked. Mm-hmm. Superbad nailed it, I thought.
Yeah.
21 Jump Street lampshades that when everybody in the school says you look like you're 30.
Yeah. I mean, even like James Franco, he was supposed to be a real high school student, right?
Yeah.
Like
I mean, he looks like he's
he
30 or 25
really old
also.
In that movie.
So, do you have what do you think? What do you think makes a good coming of age story?
I think when you're growing up, a huge part of your life is your guardian, whoever that may be, or your mentor. And that character needs to be dynamic. That character can't be like a faceless Charlie Brown mom, you know?
You think so? Like the adults have to be dynamic? I think the adults could be static.
Because you can't... When you're talking about like child-parent or child-guardian, child-mentor relationships, it isn't like... It's easy as a child to see, an adult figure in your life as like all perfect. But as you get older, you kind of see that like, they're just a person.
I see what you mean, that like realizing flaws in your parents or humanizing your parents can be a coming of age story. Mm-hmm. And it is a good one, but I don't think that parents are necessarily required or even adult figures are required in coming of age stories. You know what I mean?
Okay.
They can serve as a catalyst, but like for example, Stand By Me.
Yeah.
It's just about 4 boys like on a trip together and then they come back.
And also that one where they're on an island.
Lord of the Flies?
Yes. Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies, like It,
Yeah, okay.
Very little adult involvement.
Yeah, but I think if you're gonna have an adult figure, I think they should play an important role.
Oh, I see what you mean. I mean, like even in Ferris Bueller, they don't play too big of a role.
No, they don't.
So, but I still think that's a successful coming of age story.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just Cam's dad is kind of lurking in the background as his fear, so he has that to kind of root him, but there's not really a present adult.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Maybe like an exploration of the hero's journey.
Yeah. They're met with some sort of problem that takes them outside of their comfort zone, and they have to change because of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like every movie should have some of that going on.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I feel like what makes Ferris Bueller such a great coming of age story is that they take Cameron out of his comfortable environment, in which is his bed, and they get him out into Chicago, and they see the entire city, and then they have to come back to Cameron's house. But he's a completely different person at that point. I just feel like taking someone, either physically or metaphorically, like outside of what they're used to, is kind of that.
Yeah, that's pinnacle. Dan Harmon has a lot about that too on the hero's journey. Uh-huh. He has like a 5-step system for how it should work, 5 or 6 steps. Yeah. It's like you have a hero, they want something, they have to be uncomfortable to get it, and then they like come back changed or something like that.
Yeah.
And then repeat.
Yeah.
Indefinitely. Which is interesting in like a television sense, because it's kind of hard to repeat that cycle indefinitely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which you have to do with a long-running television series. Mm-hmm. That's why I feel like you kind of see characters stagnate over time in television.
Do you feel like for some shows, maybe like American Horror Story, where they switch up main stories every season with the same kind of premise, do you feel like those stories kind of tend to be better in terms of like incorporating their hero's journey and not creating static characters?
You know, I think there's two ways to make really successful TV shows. One is the anthology style, like American Horror Story. Fargo did the same thing.
Okay.
What's really good about that is that it allows you can have a set story and not have to worry about you get renewed for another season and then you have to take your story that was neatly wrapped up and unpackage it and then make it messy again, which is especially weird for character development, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But when it's done right, it can be good. But like, for example, Fargo and American Horror Story, I like that format.
Okay.
You know? Or you could make a TV show and say, Breaking Bad did this. When they started this series, they said it's only going to be 5 seasons, and then they mapped it out exactly how it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And then they said we're not going to do it anymore. You see TV fail with something like
Supernatural.
Supernatural? Yeah. What do you want to talk on that? I don't really know too much about it.
Supernatural. It was never a masterpiece, but it was entertaining in the first couple seasons, and it had solid character arcs. It had a story that could be followed and was interesting. And on the 5th season, the last episode, I believe it's called Swan Song, one of the characters gets thrown into the pits of hell, and then everything kind of gets, like, they save the world, basically, and that was it. That's where the series was supposed to end. But they go on for 7 or 8 more seasons after the show was supposed to end.
Oh, I see what you mean.
They're ending right now at like season 13 or 14.
Yeah, so it just gets really loose after that. After it goes longer than I expected.
After that, it's like, how many times can these characters die, come back, save the world, fight demons?
Yeah, I guess comics have that issue probably the most out of anything, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's why there's so many characters in the Justice League. Like, there's got to be new dynamics to explore, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why there's like retcons, like total redos every couple of years too.
Yeah, which is interesting that it's still entertaining, even though it's like essentially the same basic set of stories being told over and over again, almost like myths at this point, you know?
I think familiarity in comics makes things easier and more entertaining to read.
No, I agree. And, like, you really get into deep character dynamics when you're looking at American superhero comic books. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about relationships, essentially.
Yeah. I read something recently that was like, I don't want to go and buy a new novel because I don't feel like it, but I will read a graphic novel about Batman that is a character that I've read forever. It's like, you don't want to take the time and effort to learn a new, brand new character and their dynamics and their kind of feelings towards life and how they live.
Yeah.
You just want to see that same character who has like the basic structure every single time.
In new situations.
Because you already know and love that character.
No, it makes sense to me. That's why they're so popular.
Yeah.
That does provide downsides too, though, like having to read 150 books to understand a full story, you know what I mean?
Yeah, at Brightest Day. Forever Evil.
At every major comic book event, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even like on the Marvel side too, like Civil War, you got to read like 100+ books to fully grasp what's going on.
Yeah, really.
So any big crossover event, huge.
Yeah, I mean that's we're kind of getting into that with movies too. Like if you wanted to watch Endgame, you had to have a certain amount of knowledge.
21 movies, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is amazing that it was still that successful for how much background information it required. Mm-hmm. That probably took the most background lore out of any movie, I would say. The most time investment required to understand that movie out of any movie.
And speaking of coming of age, I was 9 in 2008 when the first Iron Man movie came out. And I grew up watching these movies, and now at age 18 I get to see Avengers Endgame. And it's like a completion of like
it's
that
crazy.
portion of my life.
It's wild that it was only 11 years to get all of them out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's amazing that they did 22 movies in 11 years, and I still wasn't bored of it.
Yeah.
They were on pace for 2 movies a year.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like, it's never been done before.
Yeah, and I'm worried that we're going to be seeing it a lot more, but done very poorly.
Yeah. I mean, with the DC, can I even call it the DCEU? Like,
I don't know. It might be falling apart at this point. Like, it might just be scrapped. The main contingency with, I mean, once you lose Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, and like, those are the 2 big ones. But
yeah, I doubt Gal Gadot would.
Gadot?
I don't know. Gadot. She's Wonder Woman right now, and you don't know if they're gonna be tied in.
Well, she's coming back for Wonder Woman in 1984.
Yeah,
so
we at least have that movie
for her. Yeah.
And then Margot Robbie is Harley Quinn. Is she gonna be in James Gunn's Suicide Squad? Do we know that yet?
Margot Robbie's coming back.
Okay.
I think that's all we know.
Okay.
She's gonna be in Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad.
Yes, Birds of Prey is an interesting movie because I am familiar and like the characters that are in it, but it's like, where does this fall in a greater universe, or is it just like a standalone movie?
I think it'll fall in. I think it'll be in the DCEU, the soft revised DCEU.
The soft reboot, starting with like, I don't know, Shazam?
I don't really know how they're gonna do Batman from now on.
Well, is Reeves's Batman? How is that gonna fit in?
That's not part of the DCEU, I don't believe.
Okay.
So I think we're Batman-less at the moment. No Batman, no Superman.
Okay. I mean, that... I love Batman and I love Superman, but it allows more character stories to be told that haven't been done to death.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it benefited the MCU that we didn't get Spider-Man until...
Oh, yeah.
8 years into the...
Because we'd be at, like, Spider-Man 5 right now, and it would just feel like we're done if, like, we'd started with
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor weren't too widely known outside of Marvel comic book fans.
Yeah.
And now they're super well known, so... If DC had done something like that, where you start smaller, then ramp up to the big characters, that would have been nice, you know?
And not just gone straight into Batman versus Superman.
And not done Batman versus Superman. And not do Flashpoint, which is slated.
Flashpoint was just such a bad idea.
There's still never been a Flash movie, standalone.
Yes.
There's a Shazam movie before there was a Flash movie.
Yeah, in my headcanon of a DC extended universe, it starts with the Flash movie. We've talked about this before, but it starts with the Flash movie.
Have we talked about this before?
This was in the episode we did about Batman.
Oh, okay.
This is heavy What If podcast lore. In the episode we did about Batman, I talked about how I want my Batman movie to be in an established universe that starts with someone like the Flash.
I see what you mean. Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Green Lantern's hard to do correctly. I don't think I would want a Green Lantern movie, because I don't trust people enough to pull it off right now.
Hal Jordan just
after the last
one. For you.
Looking at you, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, where'd you let us down.
Yeah. But back to coming of age stories. I think that's all the big points.
Yeah. So how about we do a little bit of a speed round then?
Okay.
So I guess we'll pitch coming of age stories that we would like to see with let's say established characters.
Established characters that already exist.
Whatever character you want to see a coming of age story, yes.
Okay, interesting. I have one that's... Can I do a quick one that's not an established character?
Okay.
I'd like to see in a coming of age story set in like a full apocalypse. That'd be nice.
Oh.
But so almost like Dairy Girls in a way that it's like kids growing up, but the background is just like nuts.
It's post-apocalyptic, yeah.
Yeah, there's like full nuclear war and stuff, but it almost seems like they're like oblivious to it. That would kind of be cool.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
So that kind of relationship in Dairy Girls where they're just kind of ignoring all the IRA stuff happening around them, but like taken to like the 12th gear.
Yeah. The thing that comes to mind is actually Ready Player One. I don't know why. Probably because that character was younger in that movie, right?
Yeah, and the Earth wasn't looking too good in that.
Yeah.
That would kind of be... I like coming of age stories with a group of kids that have to come together and like form relationships between them.
Yeah.
So I would like that, but set in like a Mad Max apocalypse almost. Mm-hmm. But they're just like totally fine with it. Like they don't like acknowledge any of the nonsense.
Yeah. Okay. When I think of established characters I want to see coming of age, in my first thought is Wally West, Kid Flash, who I would want to see kind of growing up in Barry's Shadow.
Yeah, sort of like an Iron Man, Spider-Man relationship.
Trying to get his powers, because Wally kind of gives himself powers in at least one version of Wally West to be like Barry.
So he's trying to replicate Barry?
Yeah. And the other one would be an action hero like James Bond or John Wick.
Oh, like a young one?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get to see that in the next James Bond. That could be cool. If James Bond is like 18 or something.
Yeah.
Which I'm suspecting that they will do.
That would be really cool.
Because they expect to have a James Bond around for the next 10 years.
Yeah,
so
the next decade.
I could see a younger James Bond. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I feel like when you think about James Bond, you think about like a spy who doesn't make any mistakes and is like a huge womanizer and is like very well known.
But it would be cool to make a season like James Bond year one almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
Have any of the James Bonds been origin stories about him? It's like his first mission or something like that?
I don't think I've ever seen a single James Bond movie in my life.
I've only seen one or two, so I'm not entirely familiar with the deep canon.
Yeah, maybe this is already be done. Maybe I'm just pitching.
It could have been done because
real.
There's, 24 Bond movies right now. So I assume it's been done at some point, right? It seems like it would have been done in the Daniel Craig era, the most recent James Bond.
Yeah, he was older when he was casted, though, but I don't know. Maybe they did.
Yeah, I don't know if it was his first mission or not, but that would be kind of cool. We kind of saw that in Kingsman a little bit.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
So, that was cool.
Yeah. All right, any last thoughts? Any other established characters? Any
established characters coming of age story. I don't know, what's a coming of age setting that we haven't seen before?
I don't know, in space.
Space? I can't think of it. Well, Ender's Game. Ender's Game. In space.
Okay.
Yeah. I would like Ender's Game to be, remade.
Yeah, certainly. I know you would.
That is a tough movie to make, though. Mm-hmm. So much of it takes place with, like, Ender's, like, emotions and what's going on in his head.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to translate, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Unless you have a character, like, monologuing or talking to themselves.
Which I hate.
Yeah, but sometimes it's like that's such a common staple of novels. It's like difficult to adapt that into movies.
Yeah.
I feel like. So, which is what we're seeing with Catch-22. It's like it's tough to translate that tone of just like text that was essentially just jokes into like a.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't really know. I can't think of any.
Okay.
Have we gotten to year one? I don't know. We don't need any more Batman origin stories.
Yeah, we've seen.
We don't really need any more superhero origin stories, I feel like,
Yeah, but I feel like, since we haven't seen The Flash at all.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see The Flash, because most people don't know what happened with The Flash, especially Wally West. I'm not even totally familiar with Wally West as a character.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if any superhero were to be done, I think it would be Wally West. And Shazam made sense.
Shazam made a lot of sense. And that
because
not
many people know him.
Yeah.
It's not beaten to death like Spider-Man or... I'm so glad we didn't see an origin story in
very good choice.
Homecoming.
Yeah, I agree. And they even poked fun at that, I believe, in the first movie at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're near 45 minutes here. So let's talk about today. Today we talked about coming of age stories. We grew up a lot through this podcast. We're changed people now. We went on a hero's journey. We talked about shows like Dairy Girls and the monstrosity that is 13 Reasons Why, and other movies like Superbad and
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Arrested Development was in there, actually.
A lot of Stranger Things.
Stephen King in general, the way he writes.
A lot of Stephen King, yeah. Which Stranger Things is just an extension of course.
Yeah, of course. And we also talked about what we think makes a good coming-of-age story. What do you think makes a good coming-of-age story? Leave it in the comments below.
Be sure to smash that like button, Austin.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we've been missing.
Be sure to slam dunk that like button.
Yeah. But after you do that, make sure to subscribe as well and catch us on twitch.tv/whatifpodcast and on YouTube under What If Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Meg.
And I'm Steve.
And you just listened to What If, the podcast about movies that don't exist. Thank you.
Okay, bye.